Hey, this is Mckingsley, and you're listening to Hoot Dawg Radio.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Hoot Dawg Radio, the official podcast from members of the Hoot Dawg Gaming Clan. This is the 4th episode recorded on November 19th, 2017. I am your host, Gunbait101, and with me is my co-host, Zoltanki. How are you doing, man?
Doing good. Super excited about this show. We get to finally talk about the stream, finally get to talk about the new DLC. This is kind of, we mentioned this a little bit during the last podcast, but our last episode, we actually had to record over 2 different sessions. So we had seen some of the stuff about the stream by the time we finished up, and we were just like biting our tongues to not just spend another 2 hours talking about it. So I'm glad we can finally kind of let the cat out of the bag and discuss what's coming in a couple weeks here. I actually had a little bit of chance to play Destiny this week, more so than usual. I actually got on and played quite a bit. Of course, we had the Clarion Call this week, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later on. Clear Knight and I did a little bit of leveling up some of our alts, hoping to get my Warlock completely up to level 20 before reset. Not quite there yet, but had a good time with that. I'm getting used to playing a Warlock again after haven't really played him that much. It's funny though, in the past, the problem I had with playing my Warlock is I couldn't get used to that weird jump. But I've been playing my Titan with the Lion Rampant exotic boots, and it basically gives you a Warlock jump, so I felt right at home. But so how's your week been?
It's been also great. I also took advantage of the Clarion Call and managed to get my Titan and my Hunter past level 20. And today I got my Titan up over 290 power level today.
Oh, nice.
I felt very productive. Basically today, as we're recording, I also managed to help get my brother past level 20. And basically with the help of another fire team member, Maverick, he's also he recently joined our clan, and basically we both popped fire team medallions and utilized the Clarion Call, and he leveled up so quick. And then earlier I think it was yesterday on Saturday, JK Dino and I fired up Warframe and jumped into that for a little bit. Got our fishing spears, went fishing. On my Twitter page, I posted what I thought was a big fish that we caught, and Dino came in with this something like 30 kilogram fish, the lungfish or whatever it was called. But it's just a hilarious, stupid picture of his character holding a massive fish. And
I turned on Twitch when you guys were playing. I saw you were streaming. I was like, oh man, cool. He's probably doing some alt characters on Destiny. And I saw you and Dino in a game that I barely recognized, fishing.
Yeah.
So I got to hop on and watch you guys. I actually started playing Warframe a little bit this week too. It's all new to me. I've never played it before. I just got through the first couple of story missions and all that stuff. But I have a feeling that's something that'll be fun during content lulls in Destiny, although I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. We were dying a lot because I'm sure we are way under-leveled, but we'll work on that in time. So it's a very grindy game, and there's obviously a lot of stuff to work towards. So, but anyways, that was my week. So would you care to introduce our guest for this week?
Sure, absolutely. So tonight we have our friend and former clan member Mckingsley with us tonight. So how are you doing, Mckingsley?
Doing great. Really excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh,
yeah, thanks for coming.
Glad to have you.
Yeah. And my week was pretty good too. I started off, a little bit technically before the reset, but last weekend I had a great time helping getting my wife through the raid. It was her first time through. And I had some fun running her Titan, because I haven't created a Titan for me yet, and that's definitely the next character I want to create. A little less squishy than the Hunter.
Yep.
And I love, I love the movement with the Titan also. It gets a little closer to what I like with the Warlock. And then, this week I had a computer conference I was at, so I didn't play too much, although I am a true Destiny PlayStation geek, because I did bring my PlayStation with me and tried to get on Tuesday night for a little bit and run a raid with someone. And then I didn't get on the rest of the week until last night, and then I ran a raid with another group. Okay. So I haven't done any Clarion Call stuff yet, but had a lot of fun hopping in Destiny. A little more this week than even last week. Sometimes I'll play other games, but Destiny is the main one that I'm at right now.
I feel like I should know the answer to this since I do a Destiny podcast, but does Clarion Call only last through the weekend, or is it until a reset?
Just the weekend.
Just the weekend. I probably missed the boat on that.
Yeah, pretty short, I guess.
Yeah, tomorrow is your last day.
Okay. Well, I'll have a little bit of time tomorrow. I did see the pictures that you, I think you threw on our Discord when your wife got her first raid clear, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that was great. I was really excited for her. I've kind of she doesn't hop on Destiny as much, but I was talking to her the other day. I was like, you know what? You should try the raid. We'll help you through it. And I think it'd be a really fun thing for me and for her. And we got it done in a span of 2 different nights, and we think we did really well.
For her first time, I'm really proud of her and how well she did. I mean, that was
and
it
her
was fantastic.
Light was what, 260-ish? Yeah, it was right around there.
Right in entrance level. So
maybe the high 260s, but still, we were able to back her up. She was able to hold her own in all the important parts, and we got a completion.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting facts about Hoot Dawg is a lot of our wives play with us. I know my wife also just hit around the mid 260s, so she has also unlocked the raid. So we got to do another couples raid here pretty soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, since we have you on the show for the first time, just wanted to just kind of ask you a couple questions just so the listeners can get to know you. So how did you get into gaming originally?
Yeah, sure. I got into gaming as a young kid. I don't know the age, but my dad found out about gaming systems that were starting back then. So gaming systems like ColecoVision, Atari, if any of those names ring a bell, some of the original gaming systems before Nintendo came out. I remember on ColecoVision having a lot of fun with games like Donkey Kong. There was like a James Bond 007 game, Pitfall, games like that. Of course, I also dabbled in going to arcades and throwing quarters in the slots and having fun with games that way. And then Nintendo came out, and that changed everything. The classic NES. And we were on that all the time. Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, all those games, going to friends' houses playing, or friends coming over to my house and playing. That was probably a span of a few years there at least. I think I got a Super Nintendo, I'm not sure. But then I really started getting into the portable systems. Like, of course, I had a Game Boy. I had a few iterations of that. I got into some really unique systems, like when Nintendo and Sega started having their whole fights, I kind of went off script and went with TurboGrafx.
Oh, man.
Those ones. I had the Turbo Duo. I had the TurboGrafx 16, and I had the Turbo Express. That was like one of the first color portable game systems, and it was amazing. I remember going on road trips with my family and just playing that. And that was a lot of fun. But then probably by junior high school, I kind of fell out of console gaming. And I was into computers a lot. And the computer of choice that I went with was Apple Macintosh. And there wasn't a lot of as good games for that, of course. So I just did whatever unique things were coming out there. Not too much, although Bungie does have some roots in the Mac system with games like Marathon and Myth and games like that. And so I had some fun there. But kind of fell away from gaming for a while through high school, through college and stuff like that. And then in 2000s or so, I started to get back into considering a console, and I was kind of anti-Microsoft, so I didn't want to consider Xbox. And then I'm like, okay, I'll go with PlayStation. And I'm trying to remember if I had a PlayStation 2. I wish I know the answer to that. But I for sure had a PlayStation 3, and I have a PlayStation 4. I remember getting PlayStation 4 on the day it came out because I was excited. And I would be into games like Assassin's Creed or Jackson Dexter, or just like the typical platforming or adventure games or things like that. My history is I never was really into multiplayer or shooting games because I always had the impression that they were just a bunch of like high school, college lunk A-type personalities, like, oh, kill you. And that wasn't really my personality, and I was judging them too much, but I was just more into like just adventure games, being just more of an introvert playing on my own. I didn't mind shooting games like Doom or Wolfenstein if it was like against computer elements, but I didn't want to play against other real people. Mm-hmm. So I passed up games like Halo or games like that, and for a long time where I could have had some fun. But Destiny came around, and I'd heard about that game, and I'm like, just seeing the artwork and the pictures and the advertisements, I wasn't super impressed. I didn't really try to do any research. I'm like, what is this game? I just can't even tell what it's about. But I wasn't really impressed with what I was seeing just from pictures and artwork. And then people kept saying it was a good game, and Christmas came. It was the Christmas after Taken King, but I didn't know that at the time. And my wife said, how about we get you this game, Destiny? I hear it's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, it seems cool. I'll give it a whirl finally. I got it for Christmas. I didn't even pop it in until February or end of January. And this was after Taken King, before the Taken Spring update. I popped it in, and I'm like, whoa, what is this game? I got into it right away. I pumped through the story. I enjoyed it so much. And didn't look back from there. And Destiny is my first game where I've actually started dabbling in PvP also, and I've actually started to take a slight liking to it from time to time.
Man, when you started talking about the turbo graphics, we have a retro game store here in Florida. So shout out to 8-Bit Hall of Fame, and they've got a TurboGrafx 16 home console. And I go in there and just drool over it about once a month. I'm going to pull the trigger on it eventually. I'm just not quite there. So,
good times.
So how did, I know part of the story, Gunbait knows part of the story as well, but how did you get in with Hoot Dawg?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to remember, and I always say this to people. I wish Destiny had some way where we can track what we did with people, when we played with people. But short of that, I know I played some raids and groups with you, Zoltanki. And I do have some messages from Discord of like January of this last year of like, hey, let's meet up and do some raiding stuff. I think I played with you even before then, but then we didn't play for a while. And then I think we got met up again through Rob. I was doing a lot of raiding with Rob. I'm sure you were. We were just looking for some groups to do, probably Wrath of the Machine at the time. It looks like it was Wrath. And then I don't have any other communication that I can prove since then, although I'm sure we played some together. But it was in May that you invited me to the Discord. And you're like, hey, there's, I think we had a raid set up. And you're like, this is a group, this is a Discord, people that we play with. You can join over here also. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'd kind of been in, some other Discords. And I'm like, I never can have too many people to play with. So I'm like, yeah, I don't mind joining another Discord. And, I saw the name. I thought it was funny. I did say in the Discord, what is this, a Discord about dogs? I mostly meant that as a joke, but at the same time, I saw all you guys were posting dog pictures. Like, well, maybe you guys all really do like dogs. And that's why we called it that. So, and
especially at that point, it was basically like dog memes and food pictures.
Yes, exactly. And I wasn't sure exactly what the history of the name was, so I just thought it was some play off of like Hoot Doggy, some kind of like thing like that. But anyways, I was more than happy to join the Discord, and I started seeing people come in people that I was playing with already. I'm like, oh, those are cool guys. Like, I know Gunbait, I know Zoltanki. I think I actually invited JK Dino, and eventually people just started coming in like people we were playing with anyway. So it was a good group of people.
Yeah, it was funny. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
no,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was also going to add too, before you joined Hoot Dawg, it should be noted, you're also another one that came from Destiny Reset podcast clan. Mm-hmm. And I know when you and I first started meeting each other in Discord, and you would always throw out a petition for a raid. And I would join up randomly. And then we got to talking a little bit before Hoot Dawg. You and I kind of got into almost seeming like that we were kind of like raid educators, if you will. We would start loading up into just normal mode raids. And because I think Age of Triumph was coming out. And so I think what it was is you and I got together and we started doing normal mode raids, trying to help people go through the mechanics and go through all the challenges at normal mode, even though it didn't count for those, and just trying to get people used to it.
Exactly.
I have very fond memories of doing that. So
fun memories. It was a great time where even I, and I'm sure other people, you go into raids like Crota and yeah, the hard mode, the 390 modes were out for the raids and people didn't want to learn sword there the first time. So we would say, let's go into normal mode and just practice all the elements, and everyone could try running sword. And it was a good time to try it on the easier mode.
Yeah. And I mean, you've always been, I know, one of the hardcore raiders in our group. I actually have a ton of screenshots from just different raid clears with different groups, and you're in most of them. I know that you were in a couple of the really early raids that we did as this group, and it's funny too in the early days of our Discord and stuff. Even before the clan, we would just all be on talk and be like, hey, has anybody sent an invite to this guy or that guy? Like, oh man, get him in here, cause it was basically this group of, 10, 12 people that all played together. And, like Rob had said, it got to where, this was basically the original members were basically just all the people that we were playing with. Although I think, during the content drought before, kind of between Age of Triumph and Destiny 2, I know that you were still going pretty hard on the raids.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a fun time just helping other people through still.
Oh, yeah. But, so what other games are you playing? I know that you play quite a few other games as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I love the Assassin's Creed series. So when Assassin's Creed's the new one came out, Origins, I just was all over that, and I've been enjoying it a lot. I haven't gone into it for about the last week, but I still have a lot of exploration to do in there. And I would say if you like Assassin's Creed at all, I would recommend this one. This one's up there, like at a 9. There's been some before that haven't been as good, although I've still enjoyed them. But I think any Assassin's Creed person will love this game. Other than that, not too many PlayStation games right now. I do want to get into the Warframe and everything. But let me tell you that Nintendo Switch, Zelda and Super Mario, that's where it's at also. That's a lot of fun right there.
Nice.
Yeah. That Super Mario game just has hours of gameplay.
I haven't had a chance. I haven't purchased the game yet. I do have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Switch. Part of it, it's kind of hard though. I also have a 7-year-old daughter who I'm trying to every once in a while steal that console away from her or that handheld device away from her. So I'm in a little bit of competition there.
Yeah, the Nintendo always gets competition with the whole family. The PlayStation, not so much. It's mostly me.
Yeah, I know I'll be getting a Switch at some point. I don't think there's been a Nintendo console I've missed, like ever. But I'm kind of trying to decide when we're ready to make the move, because I know once we get it, one of our 2 TVs in the living rooms is going to be fully dominated probably by Breath of the Wild. So, I know it's an inevitability. It's just not quite sure when yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Do we have any more questions or?
No, I don't think so. If you want to go ahead and take a quick break, then we can come back and we can get into the news.
Okay. Well, first I would also just say thank you, Kingsley, for coming on. We do have a pretty lengthy show here. What do you guys say? Do you want to do the news then?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do the news.
right, so we got a new This Week at Bungie on Thursday. We're going to go through this pretty quickly because we have a lot of other things to get to in our main topic, news related. But first of all, to start off, Bungie included a recap video of the Curse of Osiris live stream that occurred last Wednesday on November 15th. And again, we're going to be talking about that a lot more during our main discussion topic, so we won't really hit on it now. As we talked about in last week's slightly delayed episode, Bungie announced that New Monarchy was the faction that won the second faction rally.
Did anyone think it would be anything else?
I don't know, man. It was down to the wire on that one for me. I still kind of expected Future War Cult to... I mean, without having checked the standings, I would have said probably Future War Cult just due to the weapons game, but it looks like New Monarchy won in a landslide.
Everyone wanted those red shaders.
Yeah,
excellent shaders.
Well, if Dead Orbit actually had black shaders, I would have been all over it, but I went and tried them on, and there was just way too much white, and wasn't really what I wanted. So who did you go with, Mckingsley?
Well, I went with, New Monarchy. I wanted the red shaders. I kind of wanted the sword. It seemed like word on the street was that people were mostly going with New Monarchy this time around, so I just figured I'd go with them. Yeah.
Well, I was hoping to get another crack at the Dead Orbit weapons, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen now, since I guess the roles are at least the roles are going to be resetting, but maybe the weapons as well in Season 2. So I don't know if we'll have another chance to earn those weapons or whether they're gone, but be interesting to see how that works. So, and then the next thing in the news is Iron Banner returns this week. Begins November 21st at 1 a.m. PST and ends November 28th at 1 a.m. Game mode is Clash. How do you guys feel about that? What's your favorite game mode for Iron Banner?
I love Clash and I love Control. Either one of those are fine. I say keep away Supremacy as long as they possibly can.
Yeah.
My favorite is Mayhem Clash.
Oh, yeah.
But, short of that, Clash is good. I was always a little partial to Rift type play also.
Yeah. I like Control quite a bit. I think Control was actually my favorite game type when I first started playing. Iron Banner to me is always kind of a Control game, but certainly glad to see Clash, like Gunbait said, as long as it's not Supremacy. I don't mind Supremacy in and of itself, but I don't like to have to play tons and tons of matches of Supremacy. Usually I'm good for 1 or 2 games, and then that's all I really want. So, of course, this Iron Banner is your last chance to earn the Season 1 Iron Banner emblem, the Shades of Radagast, which I currently have on my Titan. And that is granted when completing the seasonal milestone. And then Iron Banner will return in Season 2 with new rewards and new ways to earn them. Let's see. As DMGO4 signed off from the TWAB, he repeated the message from last week's TWAB that the clarion call is going on right now. Of course, by the time you guys hear this recording, that will likely be over. But hopefully we all collected tons and tons of bright engrams, so you got a bunch of shaders that you're just going to delete. Actually, I can't complain because, I've complained in the past about not getting the exotic emotes. Within the last week, I got 2 of the exotic emotes, I got 1 of the exotic ships, and I got the ornament for Mida, which is nice.
It's shiny.
Yes, it's very shiny.
One other quick note that I wanted to add, I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but we also wanted to congratulate Cosmo on the birth of his child.
Congrats.
Yes, congrats, Cosmo.
Yeah, congratulations.
In other news, according to an article posted yesterday, that's November 18th, by Anthony Taormina, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but it sounded good to me.
We'll go with it.
On GameRant.com, basically, a recent addition to Destiny 2's Emblem Collection suggests the game may soon add a free trial for players. The emblem, which is called Mentor of Light, only just appeared in Destiny 2 and has prompted plenty of speculation. Bungie has not officially announced a Destiny 2 trial period. During Destiny 1, Bungie launched a trial for players that functioned a lot like the game's beta. unlocking a bulk of Earth's content as a type of demo. And this is pure speculation, but according to the emblem's description, any who help these trial players, in quotations, will possibly unlock the Mentor of Light emblem. So,
well, that's pretty cool.
I have to agree. I mean, it's something actually to go after. I hope they actually go forward with it. I don't know.
Mostly thinking the emblem. That'd be awesome to help. Are they just going to have like a little demo instead of 20 above their name, and we could help them out? Noob. No. But any way we can help people out and get that emblem, that'd be great.
Yeah,
that's how I got into Destiny. Was playing the demo.
Oh, really? Okay, that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, because at that point I didn't want to pay all that money for a game that I didn't really know a whole lot about. I just saw some of the concept art. I saw some sort of mock-up of a hunter staring at this huge Vex construct, and I was like, well, that's worth a shot. So I played the demo and then ended up picking up the game.
I really wish they did more of this stuff, actually, if this is going to happen at all. As far as like if you're out in the wild helping out a new player, maybe you're in a zone or something, and then randomly you open a chest or something and an emblem drops out for helping a new player out. That would be kind of cool to see.
That would be a great idea, and that would be the best commercial possible for Destiny. If you were giving trial players or demo players a chance to see how the community is really helpful, really willing to help you through story missions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Wednesday, Bungie had their first official live stream event for the next DLC that is coming to Destiny 2, which is for Curse of Osiris. I thought it was a great presentation. We gained a lot of insight on what we're getting next. I also feel that they didn't go too in depth, which I'm not upset about that. I'm actually happy that they didn't spoil everything. They could do that in the next episode or in the next live stream.
Yeah, they might. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what were your guys' initial thoughts on the stream? And we can go down the list here and kind of talk about what they went over in the live stream.
Mckingsley, I'll let you go first on that.
Oh, sure. I did watch it later that night, and I'm overall very excited. There are a couple small things I'll bring up that maybe I have some concerns, but I think there is potential here finally to get the game going a little bit more in a slightly different direction where we'll have some replayability. Whether that comes to pass or not, we'll see. But just all the Vex stuff and all the stuff with Osiris looks exciting.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch it live. I kind of planned on it and then just got busy with work. So I watched it that night when I got home. I'm very, very excited about it. I'm sure we'll get into all the details. Overall, I'm really interested in what they're doing with the new raid layers. Seems like a really interesting way to kind of expand on what we have and make it relevant and exciting for a while still to come. Really excited to see the lighthouse again. I like the changes they made. I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago in my one and only trip to the lighthouse, just running around looking at everything. I kept thinking, man, what a unused space. There's so much room here. You can tell that they had some plans for it that maybe didn't come to pass in Destiny 1. I really like the way they're utilizing it now as a social space. It's cool that we get to see the outside of it. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. So what are your initial thoughts, Gunbait?
Well, my initial thoughts, I'm very excited for what's about to happen. This is going to be our first time going to Mercury, besides out of the frame of going there for PvP purposes or, out of the aspect of doing trials cards. I've never been there myself, never even came close to going there. But this will be a new experience for me. I'm excited. One other point that I also wanted to add too is, as far as my expectations are tempered a little bit, because I do know that this DLC has been pretty much, I shouldn't assume, but my assumption is that this has been done for a while, that they've had this plan in the works probably since the time original Destiny 2 came out. That they've been going over, and now we do know that they will be coming out with sandbox updates, because that's just an inherent change that will come with seasons. But as far as anything that we're expecting with Endgame, I don't know if there will be still that what everybody's calling the lack of Endgame. However, there will be a few more options for us. I mean, and we'll get into this here in a little bit, but we will have the main raid, and then what they're doing to the addition to the raid. I'm really excited. I can't actually wait to get into the
scenario.
Yeah. And, but I'll start off kind of explaining what happened in the first live stream. Deej, which he took the helm of this live stream, as he usually always does, and he does a great job at it. He was joined by Christine Thomas, the narrative lead for Curse of Osiris DLC, and Dave Matthews, the art director for Curse of Osiris. And they went over, basically, they explained the world. It is my understanding, and I didn't actually look at any of the other my understanding is they also invited some of the other content creators out to Bungie that week to actually play. I think it was the campaign of Curse of Osiris.
Yes.
There were some of them that posted videos. I did not take a look at them because I did not really want to be spoiled. I actually wanted to enjoy this for myself, and I'm going to let Bungie drip feed what they want to me, as far as what I'm willing to consume, and what they're willing to put out, I'm usually good with. But they one thing they clarified is this particular DLC occurs a few months after we won the Red War. So
makes sense.
If there was any question, we had won the Red War. So
yeah, spoilers.
Yeah,
I guess I should finish the campaign.
Oh, geez. One thing that, and I'm just drawing from my notes here. One thing that Christine Thompson, after she noted that this happened, this occurs a few months after the Red War. That blast wave that we had seen that emanated from the Traveler at the end of Destiny 2. Was an essential component that the Vex were looking for and needed to happen, which is really interesting. And we'll go into a little bit more detail as far as, the Vex simulations. I won't go too much into lore unless you guys want to, if you have that information ready at hand, but I personally do not. But it's kind of interesting to see that they've actually been waiting for this to happen. So,
jeez,
yeah, I watched a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mckingsley. What did you say?
Sorry. Yeah, geez, that Traveler is causing all sorts of problems. The Vex, the unknown pyramid ships, everything's going to be coming after us now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of some of Bife's videos within the last week, and from everything that I've heard so far, it seems like this DLC has a lot of implications for the lore. And again, we won't get too much in it. I'm definitely not a lore expert. It is something that I'm interested in. But it seems like there's quite a few implications. Obviously, we get to really see Osiris for the first time. I'm excited. We'll just go ahead and get into the notes here. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
It's all good. Another thing, and one thing that I kind of glossed over though, is right before the stream started, they did show basically the full theatrical trailer for it. And that may have been the opening scene for it. I'm not exactly sure where that comes into play. But it appeared to be that, and we were later informed that space that Osiris comes into, it looks like the Vault of Glass. And Christine Thompson mentioned that it's not the Vault of Glass. It's actually a Vex simulation that it's something that they're running to try to brute force reality, trying to figure out the best possible outcome so they can get what they need or desire to work something into their favor. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
In the cutscene that we had seen, we get to see Osiris enter into what appears to be the Vault of Glass, although it's not. And they explain that he is the exiled Vanguard leader. Art director Dave Matthews mentioned that they wanted to have him be Middle Eastern. He's also voiced by actor Oded Fair. If you ever watched The Mummy, he's in that. I believe he's also in the movie Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. He is the main gigolo in that movie. So
I'll have to see it.
Never watched it before?
No.
Oh boy.
I hear it's funny.
It is funny. But he's a great actor. So yeah, they wanted him to be Middle Eastern, kind of fit within that lore. And then they went on to talk about Osiris's ghost, which is, from my understanding, it is the first ghost other than ours to be heard. And I just saw this note added in. I didn't even realize it, but Sagira apparently is Egyptian, means little one, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it is the first female ghost, and she is voiced by Morena Baccarin of Firefly fame. So I don't know if you guys have watched Firefly. I'm extremely aware of who she is. She was the ambassador in that show. So it seems like they're hoovering up all the Firefly cast members. So
at the risk of being attacked online, I have never seen Firefly. I know you don't have to send me hate mail. I know I should. It's one of those things I need to get around to.
Pinky, it's okay. We are an open and accepting community here. I just want to make sure.
It's one of those things I've always wanted to get into, but there's just only so many hours in the day. I really liked the dialogue between Osiris and Sagira. I thought that was really cool. That's something that I was hoping to see more in the dialogue with the ghost, just with her own character, and I thought that was really, really cool. Now, how did you guys feel about the design of Sagira? Definitely breaks design with the tradition.
Yeah. The design was great. It breaks tradition, but I kind of like that because whether you can say the traditional ghosts are looking a little long in the tooth, or I just don't mind there being a slightly different design. So I liked it.
Well, and as we gathered from the Bungie TwitchCon reveal, they also demoed off a whole bunch of ghost shells too. So it looks like we're going to see a whole bunch of weird stuff happening with ghost shells, which I'm excited for. I think something needs to happen. I'm not really, I'm a fan of the standard, pointy ghost shell, but I wasn't really a fan of the elongated ghost shell. And I was really excited to see what they did with, Festival of the Lost last year, with Ghost and Devil Ghost. I thought that was really cool what they did with it. But no, I I think Sagira, Osiris' ghost, looks totally awesome. Very pointy. It's great.
Yeah, I loved it. I like the original kind of iconic ghost design. It really is an iconic design. When you think of Destiny, you think of the ghost. But I like what they're doing with it. As you said, we're going to have a couple different new designs in this DLC, and then moving forward, I like to see them mix it up a little bit. I am a fan of kind of the weird ghost from Destiny 1. I like the Iron Banner ghost. I really liked, as you said, the Ghost. That was one of the few things I had not had drop for me towards the end of Destiny 1, and then I finally got it. Still sitting on my Destiny 1 character, and it'll be sitting there until the server shut down. It is just so cool.
I'm the same way with you. I that was also my ghost as I left Destiny 1, so it's still the same one. They also mentioned that if this question before has not been answered, a point of clarification, all Guardians have their light back. So that means all the Vanguard people, any extras that are still straggling around, apparently everybody has their light back. So that's how it takes place in the rest of the story from here on out. So,
all
right. Brother Vance is now our vendor on Mercury. He lives in the lighthouse, and he takes our tokens. So, and then some notes I took down here for notes on Mercury. The playable space that we go to in the director is referred to as the Fields of Glass, which I think it's kind of cool that it kind of has ties back to like the Vault of Glass. Now we have the Fields of Glass.
Yeah. And
let's see here. And it is the first time we see Descendant Vex since the Vault of Glass. Like I don't know if you remember the hobgoblins with those weird circular things over top their heads. Those were Descendant Vex.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. They're supposedly the original Vex, which are in our future, and they look kind of like older. And yeah, they have like those circular halos on their head. And I just thought it was interesting that we're seeing them again.
Yeah. Did any of you notice the harpies in the video?
I didn't.
So they were like, they weren't like they had tri-points on them, but they were like rounded as they expanded out, and they weren't like pointy as the ones we're used to seeing. They're very different looking. I picked that up right away when I was watching the video, but I thought it was really weird looking, but an interesting art direction that they chose.
That's the cool thing about the Vex is there's so many different types of Vex that there's, within the basic design, there's lots of variation, which is always cool. A lot of times I don't really pay attention to that until you see the words over their head, and then you say, oh, okay, well, that's a little bit different. So it's neat that they're bringing that back.
Well, if you ever notice, going back to D1, things with the Hive or even the Fallen, or as we now know with the Cabal, in D1, all Cabal kind of look the same. But I do know that with the Hive in D1, if you ever noticed any of the ones that were hanging around Crota, they were kind of like almost greenish in color. The ones on the Dreadnought were more yellowish brown color. They're just like a different sect of Hive. And then you have different factions or not factions, but different families or ruling parties of Fallen. They all have different colors. Like the ones on the moon, I think, were greenish in color. The ones on Earth were, I think they were blue.
Yeah, you had the different houses, and there were slight variations with the different houses. But now's a good time to say, for me, all the character, like the enemy character redesigns in Destiny 2 are amazing. I was a little bit late to the game, as I've said. And when I first started playing, I was just blown away by how different the enemies looked. I mean, they're still, instantly identifiable, but it is a huge jump in the character designs. They look so much cooler, to me at least, in Destiny 2.
back to the notes on Mercury, it includes the Infinite Forest, which is known as a virtual reality engine, or a VEX reality engine, I should say, which that opening scene where we saw of the Vault of Glass, that was included in the Infinite Forest. That's how they, that's what they use to brute force reality to gain knowledge to their advantage. Some things I wanted to clear up off the top was the Infinite Forest. It is not a procedurally generated area.
They were very clear about making that point.
Yeah. They said it is crafted with different combinations of landscapes. And what that means is that it does change, just about every time you go into it, but they handcrafted everything. So there may be a sense of randomness of how layouts occur, but it is not, completely, computer generated or random. Just how the layout occurs is where the randomness comes in. And the Infinite Forest, like a forest, has trees. And what they showed in the video, there was one, to left, center, and right. And those trees represented from left to right. It was the past, present, and future. And then they didn't go into much detail after that because they didn't want to spoil the area. Apparently, they're probably saving it till the next live stream, because I believe they were going to give a live fire exercise in the next stream. So
I'm really excited about that Infinite Forest area. One note I was going to make, but maybe I'll talk about it here, is, and I kind of don't see this happening, but what if we see parts of the Vault of Glass? What if we see it like we get to go through an area kind of like how Osiris did, either in the Infinite Forest or in a strike?
I hope so.
It seems very plausible.
I hope so. Or if they bring the raid back. Everyone's always saying, bring back the old raids. I kind of don't see that happening right away, but if they throw that in there, we will not be disappointed.
Yeah, or it, and like I said, I didn't see any of the other content creators' reveals or anything like that, but even if it was part of a mission that you kind of had to go through, and I know in Destiny 1 they kept pulling us back into Destiny or into the Vault of Glass, either if it was for during Skolosh missions, or there, even when the Taken tried to infiltrate the Vault of Glass. They kept bringing us back there for certain reasons, and I think that would even be cool if they, kind of brought us back to that, even if it was for that Templar area. I think it would be really cool.
So. I just love exploring through there.
Yeah, I could not be more excited about the Infinite Forest. Yeah, I've said in the past, one of the things that I like so much about Destiny is I like the scale of the game. There's certain areas that you are able to get to kind of a high point and just look out on this huge vista, and I've never seen anything quite as impressive or quite like the Infinite Forest. It's really cool too, as they pointed out in the stream, that this is actually inside the planet. This isn't some weird, alternate dimension or anything. This is actually supposed to be physically inside the planet. So taking that into account, again, just looks amazing. I also think they were very clear that the opening scene that you saw with Osiris was not actually in the Vault of Glass. I think they wanted to make that point from the very beginning because they're aware of the community getting all kind of like, there's been all this discussion about Vault of Glass. Is Vault of Glass coming back? I think that was their way of saying from the very beginning, hold on, Vault of Glass is not coming back right now. I think it was very intentional.
You're going to ruin all my hopes.
I know, me too, man.
Well, it may not, because it isn't Zoltanki. It's a simulation.
Exactly. So it's not really the Vault of Glass, but for all practical purposes, we're having fun in the Vault of Glass.
Hey, I'm all for it, but I just heard all of Reddit roll their eyes.
Well, have low expectations, but we can always hope.
Yeah.
Moving on to the lighthouse. Basically, being that I hadn't seen the lighthouse myself with my own eyes before, I thought it looked really cool. would have probably been even cooler if I had been there in the past, but we'll look beyond that point. So as they went around the lighthouse, you got to see Brother Vance in the center portion, usually where the chest is. So, which was cool. And that's where you go to, I guess, take missions from him or return your planetary items to him and get loot. And as they went around, one of the things that I wanted to focus on, and it was on the wall of the lighthouse. I refer to it as had a very Vexy historical marker. And they weren't, I don't know how to describe this really, but they said it was a way of weapon forging and or a way of keeping track of quests that you've completed. And now I don't know if that means that there's just, and there was I can't remember. I think there was 11 points on it as far as things to do off that history marker that they said.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, and one of them was connected to a device. So there was actually 12, but one of them was connected to a device.
Yeah. So there probably won't be 11 exotic weapon quests, but whatever there is, it sounds like there could be some great playability there. Yeah.
And Deej was very clear, and he said some type of weapon forging. So I don't know if it's like what we had with Rise of Iron with Galahorn. How we build our own Galahorn. If we're doing that for all the weapons and just building a legendary item, should be interesting. I like the idea of building in quests for weapons. I like working towards something. So
I've heard it kind of floating around the community that it may be something where you have different weapon components that you can assemble in different configurations. Now, I don't know how much of that is just people kind of going, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, or whether there's actually any data on that. That would be really cool. I think that would be an interesting answer to the whole controversy about having fixed roles. But whatever it is, I'm definitely excited about it. I really wish that he had spent a little bit more time shooting that hand cannon so we could get a little bit more information from it. I think that they were very intentional in how they just show you just enough so that you're wondering about it.
Yeah. And after they showed off the lighthouse and there's other NPCs kind of around, not actionable NPCs, but there are other characters within, I guess they are cult members, if you will. People who have tried to follow and find Osiris all this time. There's some of those that are there in the lighthouse, but after they did their quick walk around, they walked outside of the lighthouse and showed off some of the skybox, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. Up in the sky, if you looked off into the sun, you could actually see the Almighty still kind of floating there. Apparently we didn't do a great job at destroying it completely, but yeah, that was really cool to see. Their skyboxes are amazing though. I mean, it's always neat to see those.
Where's our telescope where we can see the dreadnought?
Actually, you can, you can still see the dreadnought.
I know, right?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like you can actually look up. It's off IO, and you can actually look up at the rings. You can see the tiny little dot that is the dreadnought and the big circle around it. That is, where the explosion blast happened. So, really neat how they make those callbacks. Yeah. As they walked around, one little thing that I picked up, and then a little funny little side thing as I was watching, because I also had Twitter up at the same time and instantly liked it, but I noticed Deej shot his hand cannon, and because they were taking fire, and he was like, "Oh, I'll help out," and he popped a couple shots with his hand cannon, and I noticed that it had a different recoil, and as I can describe it, it almost kicked laterally and straight back at your face. Like there was no vertical recoil, so like you didn't notice the gun kick up. which I thought was interesting. And then as I was watching it, like a few seconds later, I saw John Wisniewski just post a tweet, and I quoted it here in my notes, but he goes, that hand cannon fire animation looks a little different. Hand on Jin. And I thought it was interesting that he, gave a nod to it.
I didn't really notice that until I was looking at the show notes. I think I was too busy looking at everything else. And so I went back and replayed it. And that's very definitely a different type of recoil. And that's a good way to describe it, describe it kind of laterally, kind of back. Be really interesting to see exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a change in hand cannons across the board or if it's just that hand cannon. Either way, I'm excited.
I can't imagine it would be an across the board change because people are used to, for example, Better Devils. Once you've shot the Better Devils 5,000 times in Crucible or whatever, your muscle memory gets really used to the recoil pattern on all the guns. I think people would lose their minds if they change the recoil in existing guns, but who knows? It's possible.
Yeah. And then moving on, they said there are 8 main missions, and 2 of them are new strikes, which are now back into the story. Okay, so kind of like how Exodus Crash was. Well, that actually wasn't a main mission. That was actually a side mission, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay. But they did play it into, in order to get like the Sturm hand cannon, you had to kind of fill that in to get that weapon. So
yeah,
at that time, I didn't even know I was doing a strike at that time. I just knew that, I have to do the side quest.
Yeah, same here.
To get this hand cannon. And then I saw it show up a few weeks later as a strike. And I was like, oh gosh, not this horrible.
Yeah. But basically, D2 hasn't had strikes built into the story. It's kind of like how D1 did. It's like, now do the strike. And it's like part of the storyline.
Yeah. Then a comment from Mesa Sean says, it feels, the gameplay feels beefy, but others say it can be done in 2 to 3 hours. So that's including all the missions in Strike, I believe.
Probably just the missions in the Strike. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense if you're counting 8 missions, 2 to 3 hours. But of course, you're going to have the adventures, you're going to have the raid, everything else. But people are going to be like, I'm done with it. 2 hours later, Curse of Osiris sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it can be speed run in 2 to 3 hours, but if that's what you're trying to do, just bust through it. I mean, why are you even playing? I guess people can do what they want. I'm going to certainly try to take my time with it. I think basically what they've been saying is it's going to be bigger than Rise of Iron, minus the raid, but not as big as Taken King. Is that sort of the size that you guys have been hearing as well?
Yeah, that's roughly about the size. So,
and Rise of Iron was definitely short. It seems like you could blow through that pretty quick. I know me and my wife played through it pretty much in a night without a whole lot of effort.
Yeah, it was 5 story missions, and I think 1 strike, if I'm correct, or was there 2 strikes? I can't remember. But they also went through and modified a whole bunch of strikes. So, and Siva-fied them. Okay, and then there were certain things that I taken notes on as far as for the, what I noticed show up on the director. As far as for the strike menu, they announced that Heroic Strikes playlist is back, which is awesome.
Yay.
The recommended power for those heroic strike are it's plus 270.
I'm excited about that. I just hope that they make them rewarding. I played a ton of strikes back in the old days. When Rise of Iron came about, that was the main way that you leveled up. It certainly wasn't through public events, because public events are way more rare. So I'm excited about that. I hope that they incentivize it to where I'm going to want to keep playing those. I think that the strikes are one of the greatest things about Destiny. They're bigger than a story mission. They're not as big as a raid. They incorporate mechanics. They incorporate, boss fights, a lot of interesting stuff. And we're going to get into this when we get into the raid talk. But they said the word boss a couple times. I think that they're really trying to make you see we haven't forgotten about boss fights, So I love the strikes. I hope that they make them rewarding enough that I'm going to want to continue to replay them and play through that strike playlist. I had many times I'd just hop on. I'd have a couple hours a night. I'd just hop on and just grind some strikes out. And I miss doing that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where did I leave off with? Oh, Mesa Sean also boy, we got a lot of Mesa Sean quotes in here today. But he also said that there's a big moment, or is that more of an excited moment?
No, it's when you open the chest at the end and it's just like 2 blue engrams and you're like,
No, I think the reason why I think we wanted to include this, or I wanted to include this, was that, again, it's getting excited for, and these videos that are going around, they actually did seem like they had word from Bungie to not give too much away. He just kind of showed some things that we had already seen from the stream, giving a little more commentary. But he says we should be pleasantly surprised with the strikes.
Okay. I've actually been pleasantly surprised already with the strikes. I mean, the mechanics, their design, as Zoltanki alluded to, I mean, they are like little raids. They're so good. I just wish there was more incentive to do them. My incentive is that I just enjoy going through them, really. So
they are fun. Yeah, I wish I did them more also.
And then next on the list, the next director icon or node that was added was Mercury, and as I mentioned before, the destination was called Fields of Glass. And then they went on to talk about, and all this time we've been putting in quotations, but raid.
All right,
content.
here we go.
And now we can take off those quotations and unwrap the kimono and see what they have to offer. But Deej was then joined by Stuart Monsky. He is the senior designer of the raid team, and Brandon Thorne, who works with raid encounters and bosses. And what you mentioned, Zoltanki, earlier about our thoughts on bosses, how they mentioned bosses. I do have some pure absolute speculation later on, but I do want to touch on that here in a bit. They went through the director and they went up to the Leviathan for the raid, and they showed that to the left of the Leviathan node, there was a new node called Leviathan, Eater of Worlds. And they denoted that it is referred to as a raid lair, not a full-on raid, but it does have new puzzles, new encounters, and new boss.
Yeah, and that's a lair, Lair, like a dragon has, as opposed to like an onion has.
Yep.
Either one would have worked.
True, that's true. They noted that the original raid, the original Leviathan raid, was bumped up to power level 300, and they mentioned that they wanted all raid content to feel current. So, sorry, Kingsley, it doesn't look like we're going to be going through any normal mode raids anytime soon. So, I was actually kind of hoping that they would actually kind of slack off on that for a little bit. But. Yeah,
well, so I guess there's no confirmation on if we'll have different modes, just one, no normal or prestige or anything like that.
So they did say that, and I had it later in my notes, that I do know that prestige mode will be available for the raid lair and the regular.
And the regular.
Yeah,
okay,
and for the regular.
It's just the normal's a little higher.
Yeah, for the regular prestige will be available so you can look at it and go, nah.
And one thing that they kind of put into frame was they wanted to give the scope of what a raid lair is. They said that it's not as lengthy as the Leviathan. It has a boss and challenges. And as Brendan Thorne said, you are going to die a lot.
So Crota and the underground part, with all the thralls.
Well, I assume it'll be about that size,
And die a lot.
Maybe one or two encounters, and then which actually Crota had a decent amount of even though it was a small raid, it actually had a decent amount of encounters for such a small raid.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
And honestly, a small raid sounds very appealing to me. It's not a huge investment of time. It's sometimes a lot to ask for a 6-person fire team.
I mean, I've said before
to devote a few hours.
Crota said before, Crota is, it's right up there with Vault of Glass for me. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but it's a short raid, but it is tight and it is nonstop action. There's no dull moments. It is a exciting raid. It's funny they went from Vault of Glass, which is this huge, just, again, enormous scope. And then they kind of narrow it down in Crota where it's very small, very action packed. And then they go to Kingsfall, which is this giant slog, So, we've talked before. We want to eventually do a show or a series of shows about all the different raids. But that's one of the things that I appreciate about Leviathan is it's got this sort of like module feeling about it, because the different encounters change from week to week in their sequence, and it was made very clearly with the ability to build onto it. We basically get about a raid a year. I know it was a bit of an anomaly in year one because you got Vault of Glass and Crota, but it basically shakes out to about a raid a year. And, one of the things we had discussed when we were kind of speculating as to what the the raid content was, is it just seems a little too early for a full-on raid. So this is exciting to me. This is a way that they can continue to add on to the raid with the DLCs, make it fresh. And when you think about it, when we're looking back on this raid, when the next raid comes out, this thing is going to be massive by the time they add on to it in the DLCs.
Yeah, I'm definitely not disappointed at all with this news. I wasn't expecting a new raid yet either. Any small amount that they could add on is great. I was just hoping we would have more in-game things, kind of like hidden ghosts or more weapon quests or things to keep us going in other ways. But even this is great, a great way to spend some more time, and I'm really excited to see what's coming out. I feel like this underground idea of a lair and bosses and dungeons or whatever route they decide to go with this will be nothing but exciting for me.
Yeah.
They later went on to say that guided games will be available for both main raid and the raid lair. And then Stuart Monsky also added that there will be new armor, new weapons, and new cosmetics, and they will all be at a higher power level, kind of as expected. Well, actually, I don't know if I even should say that should be expected. I was actually probably really leaning more towards the point that I thought they would actually continue on with the exact same weapons. But good to hear that they're coming out with all new stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
And they will also have, as we mentioned before, they will have a prestige mode available for the raid lair as well. And then it was later posited to them as far as like motivation for Bungie to make raids like this. And Brendan Thorne said they wanted to make it. They wanted to be able to make more raids, and they wanted more stuff for us to do. And Stuart Monsky said they wanted a variety of encounters and puzzles, and they wanted to have a variety of the amount of time commitment.
Yeah, I like that because there's times that I would like to get in and start the raid, but I don't always have time to commit to, 3 hours or sometimes even 2 hours. It'll be interesting to see, as far as time-wise, what we're looking at with this raid lair. Is it going to be like a big strike? So it's still a lot of things that we don't know yet, but I like the fact that this is going to add a little bit more variety to even how we play the raids. All cool changes so far to me.
And then there was an empty node to the right of the main node, the main raid node in the director, and they just announced flat out that will be the second raid lair coming in expansion 2 in the
So
spring.
that's when we get Vault of Glass.
Vault of Glass on Leviathan.
Now that's great, knowing that there will be even more, especially if this raid lair becomes really exciting and we're like, okay, we know in another 3 months we're going to have just some more stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. It's something we can almost put on our calendars and just expect now. So it's good. So there's no more real speculation if anything's really going to come up at all. So I like a nice timeline.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. And then they actually started the raid lair. And it basically takes you to the same point as if you were to start Leviathan. However, they just started up to where they went to the first entrance, which you don't have to go very far to the first entrance. And they just mentioned it goes down deep into the ship.
And when he stopped and knelt in front of the door, I was like, seriously, dude, you're not going to at least walk in the door? Seriously.
I didn't want to. I really didn't.
I know. There's an element to where I don't either, but, again, if there's a spoiler, I'm going to totally just watch it because I just want to see. But, I always like to shake Christmas presents, too. I'm that kind of guy.
And then, let's see here. And then they mentioned the raid lair, Leviathan Eater of Worlds will come out later, and they will announce the time. So, like what they did with the Leviathan, I can't remember, was it a week after Destiny 2 launch? Okay.
It's probably going to be a week again. I mean, that's what Rise of Iron was. That's what D2 was. I'd really be surprised if it wasn't a week later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
It just gives everyone a chance to get up to level and to get ready. I think they try to kind of level the playing field there. I mean, if after a week you haven't had a chance, then, they can't hold the community back much longer than that. But I've always liked that they do that.
Yeah, Stuart Monsky also said that he wanted to, they wanted to respect the players, give them time to do what they need to do to get raid ready.
I don't want the story missions and the strikes to just be something that you just blow through to where you can get to the raid content. And they don't either. They want you to stop and enjoy this. So I think that's a good choice.
Well, and on that point, I remember when in our own Discord, we were kind of all trying to get, it seemed like even before the raid was started, everybody was asking, hey, the raid's coming out in a week. What do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to hop into it right away? And I was very clear. I kind of wanted to take my time and rank up, as naturally as possible.
Yeah.
I didn't want to kill myself because, I don't stream this for a living. I don't have a deadline like that. I myself have a normal day job. So I was like, I'm just taking my time with this. And it ended up being that I actually jumped into it the next week.
Yeah.
after it was released.
Yeah,
but
it's an interesting thought. I mean, of course, I was probably one of the people, just because I love raiding so much, I don't want to rush through the content either, but really when it comes down to it, everyone loves playing the game, and aren't we going to get through the story missions fairly quick anyways? Yeah, I guess the way we can enjoy it slower is to play them over again or do the strike playlist a few times, go through the adventures slowly and everything. But I feel like if we're having an exciting time playing the story mission, are we going to want to play 4 missions and be like, oh, I better slow down? Or are we going to just be excited and go on,
I'm just excited to be there on day one because during Leviathan, I still did not have power or internet due to Hurricane Irma. I was just, I could never keep my cell phone charged because I was on it all the time. There's nowhere to recharge except in my car. So I would just check the Discord every couple hours and just see all the fun you guys were having. So thankfully, I'll be there on day one for this one.
And on the point of why they called it a lair, and they just reiterated, and they said it's similar to dungeons. It is a realm or a place where a boss lives. So they just wanted to.
They just want to get that word boss in again.
Yeah, well, and on that point, we after what we have seen with Leviathan, okay. I don't know how much we want to go into spoilery zone here, but I would hope that most people, either they've seen it on Twitch or, they played through it by now, or at least gotten to that point. Do we even want to go into that? Or
let me just say this real fast. If you have not done Leviathan, you need to hit up Hoot Dawg, and we will get you through it. Okay, I mean,
And most of the people I've talked to, they haven't run it through yet. They're like, "Yeah, I've watched the videos on it, so I don't think there's too much spoilers."
Yeah, but I mean, if you have not played the raid, that's where Destiny really shines. I mean, there is so much to love about Destiny, but the raids are really the pinnacle. When I was with our previous clan, I would see all the members talking about raiding and setting up teams, and I actually just kind of threw something in there one time as a Debbie Downer and said, "Yeah, I've never done any of the raids," and I had like 10 people jump on and say, "All right, we're getting you through the raid." Hoot Dawg is no different, man. I was just talking to the guy at GameStop the other day. He saw my Future War Cult watch, and he said, "Oh, man, I'm playing Destiny 2. He said, "I'd really like to do that raid." I said, "Man, message us. We will get you through."
Cool. Well, I will say I won't venture into what the end is, because we do have 2 new clan members that I play with on a fairly regular basis that they've stayed away from that end game content. I will say that in game lore, there is a certain replayability factor to it.
Whatever are you talking
going
about?
Into too much. But which is great. I'm glad I can describe it that way. However, one point I would like to make is recently it came to mind. Dino was very nice and generous to send this to me, but he had an extra copy of I guess it was a legendary collector or legendary version of Destiny 2. He sent me the box and the book that came with it. And in that booklet, there is some enemies of Callus that he asks for you to assassinate for him, essentially.
No way.
It's a petition to the Guardians to take care of these enemies. Gaul was one of them. And I'm wondering if it's one of those people or those enemies that is in that book.
That sounds cool.
So is his enemies just chilling underneath him then? Well, of course, he's not technically in there himself. Never mind.
Well, that's
the Leviathan.
That's one speculation that I have. The other speculation is the Leviathan is an eater of worlds. And guess where the Leviathan is right now?
Yeah. It's ready to take Vex.
So could it be that the Leviathan hoovered up some Vex? And
well, I hope so. And this is kind of a Vex themed thing. Everyone was so excited. We want a Cabal raid, but I'd love to go back to some Vex stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Too. So those are just some ideas. I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything. It's just pure speculation on my part.
And just to kind of hit back on what you were saying about the thing that we're not going to mention that leads to replayability of this raid, that was a stroke of genius. That was an absolute stroke of genius because it explains in one, very short realization, you understand why it is that you can go back and play this week after week. And why, even from a story standpoint, that makes sense. I mean, I absolutely love that. I did not have that spoiled for me. I only saw it after I was in the raid. So, yeah, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, come to think of it, actually, Kingsfall and... Actually, it was only Wrath of the Machine didn't really actually have an in-game... lore, in-game reason... of replayability, but I know that Crota could be brought back from the death, and so we had to constantly kill him. King's Fall, it was all about sword logic in lore. And Vault of Glass, that was actually, it was multiple timelines converging. And so that was another reason to keep going into Vault of Glass, to keep playing that. So really interesting stuff on how they plan that out.
I mean, with King's Fall, you couldn't even get Touch of Malice, I don't think, until after you played the raid, right?
Yes, that's
I remember my first time through King's Fall, the guys were like, all right, go ahead and throw in Touch of Malice. I'm like, I don't have it. And they're like, you don't have it? I said, dude, this is my first raid.
All right. And then, let's see here. I lost my spot in the notes. And basically, that was the end of the stream, really. They said next week they'll be back with Dave Matthews and the art director and game director Dan Miller. They will be showing the largest public event that we have ever seen in Destiny.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, and they'll also have a live fire exercise in the.
That is just such a loaded statement right there. Largest public event, man. There are so many things that could be. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of speculation. I know what the community wants that to be.
Well, let's put also some things in a frame of reference. Court of Oryx was referred to as a public event. Archon's Forge was also referred to as a public event. I don't think Prison of Elders was really considered that, because it wasn't really a place you can get to off the standard.
Yeah, and plus that was locked to 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that we get something like that with this DLC. I mean, I really enjoyed Archon's Forge. I liked it even more than Prison of Elders. I played a lot of Prison of Elders when I first started playing, and then it kind of gets boring after a little while. But Archon's Forge, just because of the nature of what it was always different. I'd love to see something like that. Just if nothing else, just to pass the time, give you a chance to grind for some of the weapons you don't have. I know everyone's saying that they've run out of things to grind for. Man, I sure haven't. I still don't have a Mananan. I still don't have Nameless Midnight. I mean, there's a ton of stuff I still don't have. So I'd like to have something like that you could get in with your friends and not have to take it too seriously, and just kind of mess around.
I would love that also. I was all about Court of Oryx when I first started.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think actually all 3 of us actually started after Taken King, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. The first time I ever booted up Destiny, it was right after the Taken Spring, and there's a screen telling me about all the new stuff, and I'm like, well, it's all new stuff to me, so right on.
All right. And then they concluded that the next Bungie Curse of Osiris live stream will take place on Tuesday, November 21st, 2017 at 11 p.m. or 11. Oh, geez, not p.m. Sorry, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, or that's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for humans. So
for humans,
yeah, for Hoot Dawg East.
So yeah. So any
All right, Mckingsley. I'm gonna put you right on the spot here.
Sure.
All right. So we've had 5 raids. If you had to rank Leviathan on a 1 to 5 scale, as far as standing for Destiny raids, where would you put it? I'm gonna put you on the spot even further. Give me your list from from favorite to least favorite.
Better write this down. Well, I think I can easily put King's Fall as last. And it's not like I don't like that raid, but it is so hard to get through it with a group of people. It takes forever. I don't have as much experience with it as compared to all the other raids. It was the first raid I passed, actually, believe it or not, and I liked it a lot, but it's just crazy. Although I do love the art direction of it. But boy, it gets hard after that. I loved running Wrath of the Machine a lot at the end. I know a lot of people didn't like that as much, but I'm going to have to put that probably... Geez, this is hard. Number 1 would probably be just because of the art and the explorability of Vaulted Glass. And that's just a short number one. I mean, number two is close to it. And I would say Crota, just because there's a lot of replayability in there and it's just fun. It's a short one. I remember people saying like, oh, no one runs Crota anymore. And that kind of was true until, the update came out where they redid all the raids. But boy, Crota's a great raid. And it's a great raid for people to start on.
For us, Crota kind of became like the party raid. Just get in and party.
Yeah,
get in and party. 3 and 4 is going to be a toss-up between Wrath and Leviathan. I think right now Leviathan might be slightly ahead Wrath, but it may not end up that way in the long run. I like Leviathan a lot, and when you were talking about each week it starts on a different element, that gives it some points in my book. And I really do love these encounters it is kind of nice in a way to not worry about a boss and just do like a American Ninja style warrior, in the gauntlet room or the pools gets a little boring once you get it done because it's not that hard and it can go quick and you're just like, okay, whatever. But like the dogs area is really fun and the gardens. It's tough. I don't like the art as much in the Leviathan raid. I prefer more of the dungeon style, the dark, I actually like jumping puzzles. Call me a masochist. I can do them perfectly fine on my Warlock. I don't know what everyone else's problem is. But, Leviathan might be a 3 right now, but it might end up being a 4 in the long run, and then Wrath might take that number 3 spot. All in all, I'm really happy with Leviathan, and also, ironically, I'd also say it's, as far as difficulty, kind of right in the middle, too. It's not the hardest raid out there, but it's not the easiest. Once you get used to it, it's kind of somewhere in the middle.
So you just basically just read my list.
Actually, that's my list,
exactly
too.
In that order. Now, let me ask you this. I don't know. This is more of a statement than a question. We talk a lot about how it's kind of unusual that Leviathan, you don't really have boss fights as such. I personally don't know that I feel like I'm missing anything with not having that. The community has always complained a lot with Destiny where you have all these mechanics and then you get to the boss fight and then it's just bullet sponge. Just like jump here, use this buff, and then just fill them full of lead. And I don't really have any complaints with that. I think I said on the last show, or the show before, you always get to that one moment where you're like, he's down, just pump him full of lead, it's like everybody unload, and that's a lot of fun. But I can also understand too, with the boss fight, the mechanic is always kind of the same with Destiny, more or less. You have to be in this area, you have to have this shield or ward or whatever, and then you basically just bullet sponge you take down. I do think for me, at least for Leviathan, they really did something interesting and unique. But I think that we're so used to dealing with the standard kind of like boss structure. I think that's, a lot of people are sort of asking to have that back. So I think this will be cool the way they're adding in boss fights here. So you're going to have a little bit of mix of both. I like that.
Yeah, I think you put words right out of my mouth. It's just because we're used to these boss fights, and as I've been doing Leviathan more, I think I have about 9 or 10 completions. I really am starting to enjoy it a little bit more for the fact that I guess there's more different things for people to do. If I'm kind of looking at like Wrath, there's just left side, right side, middle, and they're not too dramatically different, right? Except for maybe middle's a little bit harder, but it's all kind of the same thing. But if we're going into doing the pleasure gardens, or if we're going into doing Gauntlet, or even the final encounter, there actually is quite a different parts to do. And people are kind of saying like, oh, I prefer the throne room or I prefer the shadow room. I've actually gotten to a point now where I've done every single encounter. I'm finally familiar with the shadow realm too, where before I wasn't. I'm familiar with doing the orbs in the gardens, shooting the flowers, and it is kind of nice that there is more things to do for different people. And I challenge everyone out there to try, if you're feeling bored with the raid, to try the different parts that you haven't done yet, that you're not comfortable with yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
of another episode. We're all definitely excited for the next expansion coming to Destiny 2. Shared some of our thoughts and we took some. I know at least I did. I took some pretty detailed notes on the live stream, and we'll be doing the same thing for the next live stream. But in final, I would like to mention that we are listed on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you could be so kind, please subscribe or share us with a friend. We are also on YouTube. We don't have a custom URL yet. We don't quite have the amount of subscriptions yet to accommodate that feature. I think we have to either have YouTube makes it so hard to get started on YouTube, but I think you have to either have like 100 subscriptions or you have to be around for 30 days. So either one I think will happen quicker than the other, but we are listed on YouTube. So if you just search in regular Google search for Hoot Dawg Radio, we should pop up along with all of our other podcast feeds as well. Also, if you would like to leave us a voicemail, you can call 419-515-6851. And remember to try to keep the voicemail to 30 seconds or less so we can include it in our podcast as a nice little soundbite. I am Gunbait101. My PSN is Gunbait101. That's GUNBAIT101. I'm also on Twitter at twitter.com/Gunbait101. And I'm also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gunbait101. Zoltanki, where can people find you?
I am Zoltanki on PSN, and that's ZULTANKY. I'm also Zoltanki Gaming on Twitter, and also have my Twitch. That's, I know I say it every week, going to start doing that here pretty soon. One of these weeks, it's going to actually be true.
And did you share your Twitter?
Yeah, Zoltanki Gaming.
Awesome. Mckingsley, where can people find you?
Yeah, I am Mckingsley on PSN, and that is MCKINGSLEY, and also Mckingsley on Twitter. And on Twitch, I don't do too much on Twitch either, but I am Mckingsley TV on Twitch. Feel free to add me as a friend. I know in the clan we can see each other, but hit me up if you ever need someone to play with.
And he's a good lurker in Twitch at times. So, alrighty. Well, until next time, thank you, Zoltanki and Mckingsley.
Thank you so much. It's a great show.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's great to have you.
This has been a blast. We're going to have a lot to talk about over the next couple weeks. I'm already starting to get that, kid, a couple weeks away from Christmas kind of feeling. The DLC's coming. We're starting to see part of it, and can't wait to see what we get over the next couple weeks too.
And I'd like to thank the listeners. We hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
How do we want to tackle this next part?
Guess we just have to dip in. I mean, the order you have seems to make sense, although I'm sure there's going to be some getting ahead and back and forth when we start having fun talking about it. So I don't know. I'll just go with the flow, wherever you guys want to do.
Okay. Do you guys know how to eat an elephant?
Little by little.
And one bite at a time.
Lots of sriracha.
Yes.
And also, this is another elephant-related question. But how do you get down from an elephant?
You jump and hope you don't hurt yourself.
I've never been that high.
You don't get down from an elephant. You get it from a goose.
Oh my gosh. Where's the stop button? That was good.
All right. And in just a moment, I'm going to record 10 seconds of silence. And I'll petition and ask if everybody basically ask if when everybody's ready for that. Is everybody ready for recording of silence?
I am ready to observe a moment of silence for our prior recordings.
I am ready.
Okay. We are starting the recording of silence right now. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad that's over.
Yes, I can now vomit.
Yes.
So stressful.